I think that with the way that a lot of young men are dealing with a lot of stuff these days, that um, there needs to be more positive mentors and influences, especially people that have lived life. They look like to people like Andrew Tate and whatnot because they've left their hometown. You know, they've achieved something. It might be, you know, big Bugatti and a yacht and six pack abs and able to use nunchucks and all this, but he achieved something. He had to have something that got him there. And when you find a thing that is yours, it really helps to develop those essential personality things that help us with socialization that a lot of the incel culture is missing. And so this video is called How Guitar Kept Me from Becoming an Incel. And this is from Mike from The Art of Guitar. And I thought it was a really good watch. And I think that hopefully there'll be some sort of positivity or hopefulness gained from watching this, and maybe hopefully get some questions and comments and stuff, and maybe I can help some people with some questions that they have, because there's a lot of like dudes, you gotta find better role models. I'm not saying that I'm a fucking role model, but I'm saying like you gotta listen to people other than people that tell you that, like, if you're empathetic or sympathetic or have emotions or stand up for anything, that's not virtue signaling or being woke. It's just like being a decent fucking person. So if you're digging what I'm saying, stick around.
From the Art of Guitar, I just got done watching The Joker.
Okay, now go ahead and rewind that. Let's take our levels up just a little bit.
What's up, guys? Mike here from The Art of Guitar. I just got done watching The Joker, or it's actually called just Joker, for the second time. And a lot of the movie struck a nerve with me. You know, like when I was younger, I saw Taxi Driver, and I had the same sort of feeling after I got done watching it. And I realized it's because when I was around 12 years old, I had just started realizing that I liked guitar. And before I picked up the guitar, I noticed I had a lot of the same characteristics, or at least the feelings inside, that I saw a lot in the movie. And I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, wow, guitar is really the reason I was able to escape that sort of mentality back then. I really didn't know that's what was happening at the time, but now that I look back, it's really evident to me that that's is what happened. And so around age 12, I was kind of lost. You know, if you look back at my old, please don't, my old yearbook pictures, it's pretty embarrassing. I was just wearing like clothes that I thought would make me fit in, and I was afraid to really stand out. And so I didn't really have any hobbies.
Now, I totally relate to what he's saying, because before I was able to discover what eventually became like my own style from combining this, that, and the other. You know, you ugly and your mama dresses you funny is a real actual thing, because if you didn't come from a family with, you know, a whole lot of money, yeah, sometimes you didn't have the best looks, or actually I never had a bad Christmas. I have to always say that. That's really important. But when your parents have absolutely no idea of how like style and personality and the social constructs of high school or anything like that works, it can be really tricky to discover yourself. And it's really funny because now it's like they're completely skipping the awkward weird phase, and you know there's like 10, 11-year-olds with like faded haircuts, and you know like custom suits doing like Instagram and stuff, and it's like whoa. And I'm shit that I'm sure we all remember that awkward phase.
Anymore, because I used to do martial arts, karate, and then I stopped, and I used to do breakdancing, and I quit doing it. It was kind of like my life was making room for something. The only thing I did was violin, which isn't very appealing to a lot of people. You know, if you tell someone you're in the orchestra at school, they don't really care, you know. And I played some video games, but that really wasn't a big thing back then. Because when I was younger, you know, I'm playing Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt and stuff, and it really wasn't what you have today, where people are professional gamers, and it's actually pretty cool to be that. So I was kind of at a very lost. I was sort of lost back.
Oh, dude, you have no idea how much Nintendo and Super Nintendo and PlayStation I played before I got a guitar. Like, there's a reason my hand-eye coordination is the way that it was. And also, you know, there's nothing quite like constantly being told and reaffirmed that you're a winner. That's kind of what video games do for you. Metal's saying that he was caught up in the rodeo scene in high school and was not multi-classed like now. Was being in the rodeo scene more of a... considered a working class thing, not really a white collar thing. And Godfried said it was judo. Okay, yeah. I mean, being in shape obviously isn't something that is a bad thing. You know, it's always good to encourage physical fitness. I myself did martial arts. But also, you know, you're tall, so you got somewhere for it all to go. But I know exactly what you like. There was this time in life where I had no idea who I was or what or like, you know, even what kind of mentor you know, to look up to, because I mean, like, the closest thing that I could find that related to like my sense of humor before I was able to discover music really was like Beetlejuice, you know what I mean? Like, just kind of crass humor, because the house that I grew up in, obscenity was just kind of how we communicated. Cursing was just part of the day-to-day, but the thing is that there was also a lot of bigotry peppered in there. So, but when you think that's normal, you think that's normal. You know what I mean? It's fucking weird.
Then, and when guitar came around, it was kind of cool because a lot of things conspired to make that happen. Like, my best friend got into guitar, and then my cousin brought over Injustice for All on cassette, and things just spiraled from there, and I picked up the guitar from there. And I started to...
Oh, holy shit, dude. I totally get what he's saying, because the first time I heard the Ride the Lightning record, like, my world was changed. Like, there was something that Kirk Hammett did in the solos in that entire record that was the closest thing that I could think of to, like riding a roller coaster. It was the same with Randy Rhoads. It was like sounds that also, I have synesthesia. I didn't know that really at the time. When I close my eyes, I hear colors. So it was the first thing that I'd ever heard where when I listened to it and I closed my eyes, it felt like the closest thing that I could say the equivalent of is either like a Pink Floyd Laser Light Show or like Bill and Ted. When they're like going through the time circuits in the telephone booth. So yeah, I completely get what he's saying by, you know, Metallica being one of the first bands that mesmerized you, because the sheer speed and power of them, along with the ability to create melodic solos, when you're used to only hearing stuff like Whitney Houston and oh yeah, which always reminds me, because I never like to name names when I say, so I'll just say my family. My family would be like, you can't listen to that music. Look at them. They're on drugs. And the whole time it's just like listening to Whitney Houston. It's so good. But yeah, I totally get what he's saying. Metallica, as a budding guitar player, it will capture your imagination. Godfrey says that when he first heard Linkin Park, he didn't know music could sound like that. I can see what you mean if, like, you know, nu metal and stuff was kind of like the first things that you were kind of brought into in the in the, as you're becoming more impressionable to music, that's not just what's around you is pop music. I could see how like some of those sounds like just absolutely got inside your head. And I was like, whoa, what the hell is this? Because I mean, I believe it's Captain Terp that said that they were one of the best sounding bands like he'd ever mixed live. So I mean, I completely get it.
To gain benefits from it without even realizing it was happening. And for some of these, I'll just go through a quick list and I'll sort of tell you how guitar brought these things into my life. And then I have to imagine, though, what would happen if I didn't have guitar? Would I have ended up, I'm not saying I would have become Joker or something, but there's a...
I mean, he makes a completely valid point. I mean, I myself have often wondered, because music has led me to places where I'm at now, literally where I'm at in my life is because of music. And I often wonder to myself, had music not been part of my life, where would my life be? Because, I mean, you can listen to my tune One Dime at a Time, where I was talking about I was sitting in a rock collecting my thoughts at the very end of the driveway with my parents' house. There was this kind of brown rock, and I would sit on that, and I'd look out over God's country in Ohio. I had this great view because we lived in the country. And the road kind of wound down by the river and stuff. But I'd always be looking around and being like, there's got to be more to life than this. Because, you get to a certain age and you see movies like, like Hackers and stuff. And they have this like super cool rad arcade, or, just movies that took place in cities, as opposed to where I lived in the country that was surrounded by corn and soybean fields. So I get what he means by like, what would life be for me had I not discovered the guitar? Because I mean, the only thing I did was play video games. So I don't know. Yeah, metal. It sounds about right. Hang out downtown with Gluey Louie.
A lot of people these days, they call them incels. And I'm going to use that in the title, even though some people might not be familiar with that, involuntary celibates. It's kind of a sad thing to call somebody, but it's true. It gets to the point where back when I was before a guitar, I really didn't have any way to express myself or, to get good at something or to even socialize with people around. So that's all the things that guitar can seem to bring into my life, or what they brought into my life, are things that can pull anybody out of that situation. So it's another huge reason why I love this instrument, or any instrument for that matter. But here's my personal list of what it did for me. Okay, like I said, I was about 12 years old, and
Godfrey says, as a computer scientist, I feel watching Hackers like you watching Twister as a meteorologist. Yes, I was a meteorologist in the Navy, and yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. or weird science. It's about the same amount of research-based cinema.
I have this theory that a lot of people who are really great at a certain thing in life started around that time, between 12 and 15. It seems like something really grabs people around that age, and it becomes an obsession, and a lifelong obsession sometimes.
I couldn't throw the ball straight. I'd tried every single sport that you could possibly think of, because like my father was an athlete, and I was like, I mean, I'm gonna live up to the family's name, I gotta make the old man proud. So I mean, I literally tried every sport you can think of. Except maybe fencing. I'd even tried pole vaulting. I discovered it's a wonderful way to kick your own ass. But I know what he means by being at an age where it's something that you kind of get your kicks out of, and it kind of helps develop your personality. I totally understand that, because when I saw Angus Young on the AC/DC Live at Donington VHS, and I just saw him playing guitar and smiling and running around the stage, I said, okay, that's the job for me. And thus started the obsession. So between first hearing music and hearing these crazy guitar solos that piqued my interest, and then seeing Angus Young and Iron Maiden VHSs. Steve Harris really was kind of the one who got me originally playing bass, if you will. It was probably between Steve Harris, Eerie Von from Danzig, and probably Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath. Those are probably the three people that really got me started on playing bass, because I was jamming with my buddy. He played guitar, and he'd been playing guitar for quite some time, so he was way better than me, but needed bass in order to be able to form a band, and so therefore that's how I picked up bass. Godfried says that he started playing guitar around 14. Yeah, 14 is like 12, 13, 14, that just seems to be the age. You lock into something, and especially if it's something that you can do solitary, you don't have to be around people, then I totally get it, you know what I mean?
So it's another huge reason why I love this instrument, or any instrument for that matter, but here's my personal list of what it did for me. Okay, like I said, I was about 12 years old, and I have this theory that a lot of people who are really great at a certain thing in life started around that time, between 12 and 15. It seems like something really grabs people around that age, and it becomes an obsession, and a lifelong obsession sometimes. For me, it was age 12. And guitar actually gave me something to focus on. Back then, there was just school. In summer vacation, we didn't really know what to do. We would hang out and whatever, throw a tennis ball against the garage door. We were so bored at times, And guitar actually gave me something to put all my energy towards. So time would fly by, like I said in previous lessons, where I would practice for 6 to 8 hours a day.
No joke. I completely relate with everything that he's saying. Especially where I was, it was so boring, and especially because like at the age that I was at, there was no punk shows to go like getting fights in, and trouble to find, if you will. You're just young and budding, and you just, what the fuck do I do? There's like, what do I do? And I completely understand what he means by it gives you focus, and what he meant by, sometimes playing like 6 to 8 hours a day. I totally get that. It was this idea that it almost like time disappeared when I discovered passion, you know what I mean? And I think that whether it's guitar or anything, any hobby that you can get progressively better at is something that I think helps to add to your mental portfolio as a person. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of the INCEL culture is missing, is the ability to cultivate something that's not just instant gratification or lived vicariously online. Something that actually is theirs. Like whether it's fucking putting puzzles together, it doesn't matter, but just something that you get better at, that you thoroughly enjoy doing, and you don't care what anybody thinks about you doing it. I can make balloon animals. I learned to do that when I was injured. I don't care if anyone thinks that's dorky.
And I would be practicing so intently that I would look up and it was dark out all of a sudden. I was like, oh man, I got to go to bed because I got to go to school the next day. So having something that...
And the only thing you dreamed about was school ending so that you could get back home and play more guitar. I would even take my guitar with me to school so that, I literally carry it in between classes so that when the time came at lunch, I could sit under the tree and like practice the little bit thing that I'd been working on just a little bit of just to get under my fingers some more. And eventually people, as I got to sounding better, they'd hang out around me. But there was already people in my school that could play really well. Yeah, that's a great story. Apparently Max from Sepultura / Soulfly, I got to see them open for Slayer. You went to a soccer game and noticed the musicians playing the halftime show are having way more fun than the players. Yeah, that's why. I know you play sports, but also you play music. It's only work if you make it into work. But yeah, well, also the musicians only had to rock out a few tunes and then get off the field and, and then go probably fucking smoke dope and party.
To focus on is very important, because otherwise your brain, it's almost like it's shooting off in all directions and it doesn't know what to grab onto. It's just like firing. And when you finally give it like a real focus, what happens is it's kind of like if you take a magnifying glass and you focus sunlight onto something, it gets so hot that it can burn things. So your focus becomes very sharp, and that starts to change you right away when finally all of this craziness all around you, your brain just going wild, gets focused into one area. Some really powerful things can happen. So that's the first thing guitar really did for me, was it gave me something to focus on. And because I was getting into pretty heavy bands at the time, I was really into Metallica, of course, Megadeth, Testament, Anthrax, Slayer, all those kind of bands. It was a way for me to let off steam, not just listening to the music, which is great too. That's a great outlet for people.
Oh my God, totally. The idea of being able to let off steam from playing music. Now, playing music, letting off steam is one thing, but when you're playing guitar, there's still a lot of mental stuff there. Now, it was when I started playing drums. Now, playing drums, that's how you let off some steam. There would be, oh my Lord, before I went to therapy, that drums were my therapy. Remember that scene in Empire Records when dude's just so pissed off with everything, he just shuts the door and starts playing AC/DC on the drums? Yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
But to be able to pick up this piece of wood with strings on it and actually play along eventually and play some riffs, it really felt like I was letting off some bad energy. And if you really watch the anger coming off of some people, when they have nowhere to direct their energy, you can see that playing an instrument, being able to let off steam, it's kind of like buying a punching bag in a way, except you're doing it more in a creative way, I think. Through the guitar, you just feel like you're letting go of a lot of bad feelings. A lot of people don't realize that when you're angry, you want to listen to angry music. They think, what?
I don't think people understand just how therapeutic bending strings really is. I think Buddy Guy said it best when he said, "When the thing about the blues is when you play them, you lose them." And man, if there's one thing that's so true, is sometimes just taking one string and one note and bending it, just holding that bend is, it's so fucking cathartic. And I mean, the audience feels it too, especially if you do it at the right time. You can't just do it all the time because then it loses effect. You know what I mean? But when the time comes and you do that, I mean, there's a reason David Gilmour makes people cry when they listen to his solos. There's a reason. Oh, that's cool, Metal. You use drums in rehab. I mean, I totally get that. I mean, percussional therapy.
Well, don't you want to listen to something really soft and nice so you feel better? No. You want something to connect to or to resonate with. It's really a strange thing. Like when you're sad, sometimes you want to listen to sad music and just kind of wallow in it.
It sort of reminds me of when Henry Rollins was talking about discovering punk rock, and eventually he went on to sing for Black Flag. But he was pissed off with everything, is pissed off with his family, he's pissed off with society. And the only music they had was, soft rock. And then there was arena rock, like Journey and, stuff like that. And he's like, and none of this was making me feel like they understood me. and what I was thinking about and what I was going through. And then when he discovered punk rock, he's like, yes, this is that fucking fast anger. Like, this is, and I mean, there was some Sabbath there, but you know, it's real easy to fall into the slow stoner grooves. But with punk, it was just mean and fast and uneducated and snotty and not technical. And it was the perfect music for that sentiment of feeling like nobody fucking gets it, nobody gets me, and I'm playing punk rock guitar and playing that kind of stuff on the drums. It really not only physically helps you release that, but from learning about that music and from playing it, you meet some really cool people, and you meet some shitbags too.
But doing that with really heavy music got that out of me. Okay, you might think the next one is the same as focusing on something, but it's not. It allowed me to get good at something. And so there's something that happens to a person when they're able to actually see improvement in something that they're doing. I see it all the time at jiu-jitsu and guitar lessons. I'll see somebody as a white belt come in and they're just getting, defeated left and right. They're just tapping out all the time. And they get really frustrated. But after a few weeks, a few months, you start to see them turn the tables a little bit. Suddenly it takes the opponent longer to tap the person out. They get this new feeling like, hey, I'm actually getting better at something. And with guitar lessons, of course, I see my students getting better, and there's like a fire that goes off in their mind when they realize they can get good at something. And that's something I think a lot of people forget, is that it's possible to improve at things. A lot of people have that state of mind.
It's what I said earlier. I said that just that feeling of knowing that there's something that you can do that's physically tangible that you get better at. That shit's addictive, especially if you're somebody who's like me, who's sort of addicted to the feeling of accomplishment, as in whether it's cleaning my house or making content or whatever. I'm not happy unless I'm doing something. I feel like I only have so much time on this earth, and I have so many thoughts that I feel like it's an absolute waste to be someone who just talks about stuff and doesn't just do it. There's talkers and there's doers, and I have one of the reasons that I have 2 records is that music that's on those records was swirling around in my head, and it didn't stop until it was out onto a format where I could listen to it. And until then, it wasn't going to leave. So if there's a certain kind of art that you are born with, you have to do it. It's a calling. You don't get a choice in the matter. And it doesn't matter what it is, but the ability to discover that you can get better at something is so powerful, because then you got long-term goals, you got short-term goals that all come from being able to do this particular thing, whether it's make money off of it or become an influencer or even just a mentor or just fulfilling a personal desire for something that you've always wanted to do. It's just so important to have those. I use the word hobbies, just to have those hobbies that make you just a little more of an upgraded version of yourself every day, even if it's by like that much more. Because we all know our physical health is going down like that each day, so we have to like balance it out. It's like skill points and shit. Yeah, Metal says hobbies and outlets. Yeah. Engineering. Yeah, exactly. What Godfrey says, he chose engineering because he likes doing things that other people cannot. And that's how some people get their kicks. but the ability to be able to do better at something every day, that's the goal. I mean, that's what's going to make you level up as a person. And in general, the ability to tell yourself that you can't level up as a person because of bullying of one kind or another is something that a lot of people have to deal with, because they don't have that sort of voice telling them in their head that this is what it is that you need to do. This is your calling. And that's why I really, really thought this video was super interesting, because how many nights I laid there before discovering music, wondering, what do I do? Like, I know I'm supposed to eventually like go to school and graduate and get a job, but like, what do I do till then? So I'm hoping that seeing this is going to not really inspire a whole crop of guitar players, but to inspire people to find what it is that they love and at least set one short-term goal with it. Especially dudes. Like, I'll be straight up, because man, dudes, you got crap for mentors. I mean, I'm not a role model, to quote Charles Barkley, but I'm not gonna grift you, and I'm not gonna give you bad advice as far as how you should treat women. So hopefully this content is reaching the appropriate audience, because if you're digging it, man, come hang out.
Find that people are born with it. You know, I did that whole video on prodigies saying that it's not like that. So yeah, some people are born with certain advantages, but you can get good at something. Once you know that that's possible, it's almost like you've become an alchemist or something. You've turned something into something more valuable just by putting your energies towards it. And that's when you start building the blocks towards higher and higher things. And that's when you see the levels. That's why I always do levels videos, because there are deeper and deeper levels in everything. And as soon as you start to climb those levels, it's amazing. You go, gosh, where could this lead to? And it gives you hope. Okay, it gave me the ability to set goals. Now you're actually putting it into writing. You're actually...
How great is it that I just said that and he said that? I promise, gang, that was not intentional. But yeah, I mean, where's the lie? Yeah, I mean, I can see that, Godfrey. No reason to fall for that men go their own way shit when you have at least goals for yourself, because a lot of the men with that victim mentality, they depend on other people to set their goals for them, or just live vicariously through their heroes on the television or through the screen, as opposed to just doing it. You know what I mean? It really showed me that I was capable of doing anything when I made it through boot camp. When I did that, I was like, okay, I can do anything. So picking up the more advanced guitar things, I had the discipline to do that, because I always could go back and say, dude, you made it through boot camp. You can do this. You know what I mean?
actually making plans. And it teaches you that if you make goals and you start to really work towards them and you can accomplish them, they are achievable, which is really cool. It sounds a little generic sometimes when you talk real motivation. People think it's kind of like just talk to get you going and then that's it. This is sustaining itself. For example, like I said, when I first bought the Joe Satriani book, I talked about this recently. It's a really hard book. If I picked it up today, Flying in a Blue Dream, I'd still have a lot of trouble with a lot of that book. But my goal was just to play one part of a particular song. And I chipped away at it, worked really hard. I focused on it. I saw a little bit of progress. And over a couple months period of time, I was able to play it all right. You know what I mean? And because I was playing something so difficult, all the other songs that were easier were playable finally. So like the Crazy Train riff, some Iron Man solo parts, all that became very playable because I aimed pretty high with my goals. So having goals...
I get exactly what he's saying. If you never heard of a guitar player by the name of Danny Gatton, go check him out. Because that's the cat that changed my playing overnight by introducing me to hybrid picking, teaching me that not only I could use my pick, but I could also use my fingers at the same time, giving me thus 3 other picks, and seeing how he handled basically being able to treat the guitar like a piano by comping and then arpeggiating and everything, and all using this hybrid picking technique completely blew me out of the water. And it just took anything that I'd been doing and it just made it seem like elementary compared to it. And since then, I mean, that hot swing and that I think country jazz is the best way to put it. Western swing, it just became kind of an obsession of mine after seeing what was possible on the guitar, especially like rockabilly and stuff like that, because it's blues and it's jazz and it's country all mixed at the same time, and it's just such fun stuff to play on the guitar. So when I started working on my hybrid picking, is exactly, I get what he's saying. I was never really one for Satriani, but we all have our Mount Rushmores of our guitar heroes. But as he's saying, the more difficult stuff that you play, then the other parts that seem like they were difficult, all of a sudden they're not that difficult anymore. I'd like to think it's that way with most any skill. The things that seem like they were tricky at first, the more repetition that you do them, the easier it becomes. And I think also that's what kind of builds mental confidence for us as people, especially as men, because you're not going to get a whole lot of compliments on a lot of different things. Just the American way when it comes to men is to sort of silence and resilience. And, it's all bullshit. But the most important thing is to be able to take these small gifts that everybody has that are different and just make them into you and unabashedly like it.
This is a great thing because it does make you feel like you're making progress and you can actually have tangible results. Like, yes, I can play Midnight, or I can play this part of Eruption or whatever. Guitar got me through school, which I really dreaded at the time, because it always felt like I had this little secret inside. So I'd be in...
Dude, I just said that too. It totally gives you something to look forward to. Yeah, I really like this video because everything that he's saying is so 100% totally relatable. And it's, I imagine with any hobby that, it does kind of let you know that maybe even you got into it because you want to be part of a community, like the ham radio community or something like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, it does give you something to look forward to, especially if it's fun. Doesn't matter what it is.
Study hall, for example, and I'm supposed to work on my homework, which I never did. And I'd look around and see everybody just kind of working or sleeping or whatever. And I thought, to get through this, usually it would be a bummer. But because I know I'm going to go home and pick up the guitar, it's like I had this little secret burst of energy. So it got me through the day no matter what happened, no matter how many classes I dreaded, no matter who picked on me or what happened or how many girls rejected me or whatever. I was like, I don't care. I've got something waiting at home. And that's huge. It's like having a friend with you all the time. I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's sort of like you always have someone to hang out with when you get home. And so what I would do is I would get off the bus. I'd be like, glad that's over. Make my way home. I probably drank half a 2-liter of Dr. Pepper or something back then. I was so unhealthy. But then I would sit in my room and just play guitar. I was like, okay, I'm back to where I need to be. So it's kind of a good feeling, like coming home and having something to look forward to after a...
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to mute that. What I was saying is I totally get what he was saying, because when I got off the school bus, I knew that there was, like, the thing about guitar was I knew I could do it by myself. And being able to get away from the bullshit in my school was paramount for me, because there was a lot of bullshit in my school, let's put it that way. And so when I got home, off the bus, away from everybody, I knew I was going to be able to just sit in my room and play guitar. And the thing was, is I knew that I was going to play guitar a lot. And so therefore, I knew tomorrow I was going to be better tomorrow than I was today. I knew that that was going to be a fact because I was going to hammer on this one thing until I fucking had it. And I was going to be better tomorrow than I was today. And there's something about that that really gives you something to look forward to. It doesn't matter, once more, replace the hobby, whatever. You know that tomorrow you're going to be better than you were today, even if it's by an inkling. And there's something really cool about that.
A long day of going somewhere I didn't want to be. Something that's overlooked a lot with, I think, a lot of guys is we're not really encouraged to be creative and express ourselves. You know, if you're on a football team and you're the quarterback and you can throw a ball at somebody, people applaud you. You're the greatest thing ever, right? But if you say, I want to express how happy I am or how sad I am, it's usually looked down upon. And there's a lot of desperate guys out there that I know of. And I could see how this could easily push you into the incel world where you can't even express yourself through any type of means. So if you play a really, let's say, sad solo and people hear it or whatever, they're not going to think you're being like sappy like they would if you wrote a poem or something and read it out loud in class. So it's a good way to get your foot in the door of expressing yourself. You have many emotions that you can portray through the guitar.
I've always said that blues guitar was one of the only ways that a dude can express honest to God sadness in society without being mocked. And in fact, you might even be celebrated. It's an odd thing the way that it works, but I mean, it's 100% true. Playing a sad solo and letting all your emotions out in an instrument is one of the only acceptable ways for society to think of men to show emotions other than anger or jealousy or I don't know, what are the other emotions that society says men are allowed to show, quote unquote, because last I checked, there's not a whole big fucking range of them. But that's the thing about blues guitar. It does allow us that privilege, which, I mean, I'm ever so thankful for.
And then later, it usually adds to more creative endeavors because you're not as afraid to express yourself because you had a good starting point with the guitar. I was terrible with social situations. I still am, but it made me so much better because I started a band with my best friend, and all of a sudden we had a 4-piece band. And we formed this bond of friends, and it was really cool to have that. Everybody likes to have like a club or something that they belong to at that age especially.
We formed a band. It was 4 of us, and I mean, we hung out and sit around and listen to music and have gigantic dreams of grandeur, but also at the same time, around that time, the parties really, really started to begin. Because there was people who had no desire to be, going out to the clubs that were in my town or to hang out with certain groups of people because they didn't like the kind of music they listened to, whatnot. So there was sort of an environment that was cultivated in the jam space, and we got up to some nonsense. But I know exactly what he means. Being able to do something like form a band, it opened the door to opportunities that would have never been opened before.
And so I was able to form really strong bonds, and I'm still friends with them to this day. But it was really cool to feel that. We all got better together, and we worked towards a goal. And next thing you know, we're walking through the hallways at school, and the same people that used to tease us, some of the jocks, were like, hey guys, what's up? And they're actually trying to be friends with us. So we thought that was a weird turn of events. So it really forced me to be more social. So it opened me up to that. But it was strange because I was basically invisible to girls and women back then. And all of a sudden, just because I play this piece of wood and make music with it, that wasn't a problem anymore. I'm not saying I got a bunch of dates or something like that, but I made a lot of new friends, and I actually ended up breaking out of the friend zone with some people. And I think that's a huge part of becoming an incel, is when you don't feel like you're ever going to have a chance dating anybody. So I'll do a whole video on dating. I've got a whole thing about that.
Yeah, I get what he means. There was a period of time there where just being a weird autistic kid from the country, my luck with either the fellas or the ladies, it was going to be very, very limited because socializing was not really my strong suit at the time. So I get what he means by I imagine that, you know, the dudes who are the incels who are dealing with this kind of thing internally. I mean, I get where their strife would come from, because you think, am I ugly? Am I not, like, am I not smart? Am I, like, what's the deal? You know, like, I think I'm an okay person. So those kind of weird little creepy self-doubts can come in. And especially nowadays with, like, all the stuff with social media and the manospheres, like, constantly whispering poison in your ear. I mean, I could totally see. So I think that when the first time you're recognized for something that it is that you do by somebody that you're attracted to, in a way, your brain is like, okay, I see what's happening here. And this thing that you do starts to just sort of become more of your personality, because there's a light that shines from people when they do what it is that they love to do. And other people can see that. And call it charisma, call it confidence, I don't know what it is. But that's what makes people attracted to other people, is when they see them enjoying themselves. Now, there's always going to be fucking haters who can't stand to see people smile. But for the most part, that's not the case. I think the best way out of the friend zone is to never think of it as the friend zone. Just think of them as they're your friend, and if they show interest in you, that's cool. If not, that's cool. But be able to, you know, take the rejection without going into full narcissistic collapse and committing a fucking crime, which a lot of dudes do because they just cannot take no for an answer. And a lot of this incel culture, that's one of the things that they're learning, is you got to manipulate women in order to get dates and lie and just a lot of horrible trash. So, man, I'm hoping this video gets in front of somebody and, you know, helps to get them the initiative to want to find out what it is that makes them special, and or a new interest, and to hammer on that, and don't worry so much about a lot of the other things other than what your passion truly is, because that's going to come through, and you can't fake the funk. People will recognize it. Just be you, and be you, the best you that you can be. You know what I mean?
But I just wanted to put that in there a little bit, that guitar, because it forced me to be more social and it gave me something to get really good at, changed a lot of my the vibe I was giving off. And next thing you know, people were actually contacting me versus me reaching out in desperation to everybody. All of those things put together equals more confidence. When you don't really have anything that you're good at and you're always unsure of yourself, you could really lack confidence. And that really sort of keeps people away from you sometimes, because when you're not confident, you overcompensate, it seems like. At least
it almost, and I promise you, I didn't watch this fully ahead. It almost feels like we're just sharing the same brain, because one of these thoughts leads to the next thought, because it all really stems from the same thing, and it's finding the thing that makes you, you know what I mean?
At least I did. And I tried to do things to impress people that were really stupid. You know, I was getting into some stupid things that I shouldn't have. Luckily, I didn't go too far down that road. And so because all this stuff was happening, I didn't...
I think he's talking about substances. And, some people chose to abstain, and some people chose to make it I think the best way to put this would be an experiment in human biology with well-set parameters. Enhanced dulling of the senses. But I digress. I don't encourage illicit behavior. I just only encourage for people to experiment in which ways they find may encourage them to leave the hometown inside of their mind.
Realize it, but I was building this energy tank full of confidence, kind of like in video games where you see the energy tank expand or contract. Well, mine was finally expanding. I wasn't running on empty anymore. And when you actually have some confidence that's backed up by something tangible, it's unstoppable, because that's the reason why I believe our band got so far so fast, is because all of us suddenly had this new feeling of power inside. And it wasn't a negative power necessarily, like we're better than everybody, but it was, hey, we can actually do something. And the more shows we played and the more people that became our fans and cheered for us and everything like that, especially when we played the junior high talent show in front of 600 people 3 times. So 1,800 people in...
Yeah, I totally get what he's saying. I mean, I ended up playing my high school talent show too. We lost to a cover band that played Sweet Home Alabama, but it's okay. The fact of the matter is he's completely right. You know, you do start to, like he was talking about, that it's like an energy bar, but it might be with confidence. Unfortunately, if you start to believe your own press, it's really easy to develop a raging case of narcissism really quickly, especially if like you're pretty good at what it is that you do, and everybody, everywhere you go, goes, yay! It's it's real easy to believe your own press real quick. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that a lot of people have, is they believe their own press.
One day, that's crazy to go from playing in front of nobody, basically just your parents and stuff, to playing in front of the whole school. It was kind of like, see, we could do something. So confidence is probably the biggest thing I was able to get from all this stuff, and it carries over to this day. One little side note, the only thing I would say it didn't provide me was a means of being healthy and in shape. So that's kind of why I started back up in martial arts, because I was getting in bad shape playing guitar, because I would just practice, like I said, hours a day. I'd get hungry, so I would just have like a Hostess pie. I just drink cans of Coke over, 12 packs a day, a 12 pack a day, not 12 packs. But I was really unhealthy. And luckily I was young enough to where my body was able to deal with it. But if I did that today, I'd probably just pass out dead. That's one thing you don't want to overlook, is your physical health. A lot of musicians I know don't seem to really pay attention to that. They're just like all about the music and being creative, but they're...
I can't even tell you how many boxes I've walked past from just the music world. People letting their demons get a hold of them. People just making poor decisions. People just, unfortunately, getting into accidents, when touring. The road is an amazing place. I think it was Lemmy that said all your dreams are out there, but also so are all your nightmares. So I mean, there's just so many things about this video that are just so relatable. Oh yeah, especially when it comes to the whole like health thing, because we were all raised in the school of Bon Scott, okay? And Bon Scott made it cool to smoke and drink and do drugs and, just be a bad boy in general. So we all thought, this is what we're supposed to do, I guess. And the modern generation of musicians, they got their heads screwed on kind of straight. They're like, we don't need to fucking smoke cigarettes and drink whiskey just to have a good time. Also, a lot of it had to do with just being out and socializing with people, smoking and drinking and partying, just kind of what you do. And, as things start to change and become more of a digital methods of communication, the need to do all of that just to socialize, it dwindles. So I can see where the cigarette companies are having a real fucking hard time right now. Yeah, that's right. The problem, Godfrey.
They're falling apart inside. So that's the one thing I would say the guitar didn't provide me with, so I had to supplement that a little bit. Okay, so it'd be really interesting to hear what guitar has done for you. If you put a lot of energy and time into learning the guitar, I'd love to hear what you feel like it's giving back to you. And
anyway, so yeah, I think this is an amazing video because hopefully maybe it encourages somebody to pick up an instrument or just find any sort of hobby that is going to make you into somebody who can give yourself short and eventually long-term goals and stay focused and just become that much more of a machine when it comes to meeting your goals, because I think that's genuinely one of the things when it comes to incel culture is there's just no faith in themselves. Maybe it's because nobody gave them an encouraging word but there's a million different things when it comes to everybody's different environments and reasons they might have the personalities that they have. But I just can't encourage anyone that's watching this video enough to find what it is that makes you you and get really, really fucking good at it. And maybe if you know somebody who, is suffering from feeling these feelings of a black pill or even going down the red pill hole and, starting to say really, really, really vile stuff about women and minorities and stuff just because they don't have anything going on and they might be scared of change or just not being able to find their own personality. So they're looking up to somebody like Andrew Tate or whatever. If you dig this video, send it to them and I don't know, maybe we'll all get to hang out sometime in the future. In the meantime, later, skaters. Go to skipfranzjr.net for podcasts.
Fresh record player that I could just spin records all the time.
Run into the bathroom and I'm covered in blood. Like I had put my tooth through my bottom lip.
For music, for gaming and pro-liberty game rants. That's skipfranzjr.net.